This video will teach you about complex fractions. Complex fractions, you should be able to know what they are, how to set them up, how to simplify them in order to do our next skill with constant of proportionality and unit rates, but with fractions. Before we go into complex fractions, there are two things you should know. One thing you should know is how to multiply fractions. So let's do this example together, and this should be copied in your notes. 1/3 times 2/5. I know that when I multiply fractions, I just multiply the numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So 1 times 2 I know is 2, and then 3 times 5 I know is 15. So I just multiply across. 1/3 times 2/5 is 2/15. Another thing you should know is dividing fractions. When we're dividing fractions, I can use a simple rule: keep, change, and flip. You might have learned it as KCF, keep, change, flip. So when I keep, change, flip, I keep my first fraction, so I keep 1/5. I change the division symbol to a multiplication symbol, and then I flip or take the reciprocal of the second fraction. So 2/3, when I flip it or take the reciprocal, is 3/2. And I just reviewed how to multiply fractions, so I multiply across. 1 times 3, the numerators, I know 1 times 3 is 3. Then multiply the denominators, 5 times 2 is 10. So 1/5 divided by 2/3 is 3/10. So here's the definition for complex fraction. This should be copied in your box in your notebook that's labeled complex fraction and examples. If you need to, pause this video. Complex fraction is a fraction that has one or more fractions in the numerator, denominator, or both. Again, if you need to, pause this video so you can copy the definition. These are complex fractions examples. So this should be copied again in the second box in your notebooks that's labeled complex fraction and examples underneath the definition. So our first example in red is 1/2 over 10. So this is where the fraction is in the numerator. So 1/2 over 10 is one example. Another example is 10 over 1/2. This is where the fraction is in the denominator. And then our last example is where the fraction is in the numerator and the denominator, 1/2 over 10/5. So these three examples should be copied in the examples box in your notebook. So again, with complex fractions, we should be able to recognize them, write them, and also simplify them. So this is we do number 1. This should be copied, everything should be copied in the box labeled we do number 1. So here I have 1/2 over 10, and I see this fraction bar, and I know that fraction bar means to divide. So then I'm just going to set it up as 1/2 divided by 10 over 1. When I have a whole number, I know it's always over 1. So again, the fraction bar means to divide. Then when I have a whole number, it's always over 1. So now that I've set it up, now it looks like dividing a regular fractions. So then I'm going to use my rule keep, change, flip. So I keep my first fraction, change division into multiplication, and then I flip or take the reciprocal of my second fraction. So 10 over 1 is, the reciprocal is 1/10. So now I remember how to multiply fractions, and I just multiply across. 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 10 is 20. So 1/2 over 10 is 1/20. So here's we do number 2. I have 10 over 1/2. So this is where my denominator is a fraction. So again, the fraction bar means to divide. So I set it up as a division problem. When I have a whole number, remember I have the whole number over 1. So 10 is 10 over 1 divided by 1/2. And now it's a division problem, so I do keep, change, flip. So keep, change, flip. I keep my first fraction, change division into multiplication, and take the reciprocal of my second fraction, or flip it. So this becomes 2 over 1. So now it's multiplication. I just multiply across. 10 times 2 I know is 20. 1 times 1 is 1. Any whole number over 1 is simply just that whole number, so it's 20. 20 over 1, or 20 divided by 1, is 20. So 10 over 1/2, I get 20. So let's take a look at we do number 3. This should be written in your we do number 3 box. Here I have a complex fraction where the fraction is in the numerator and denominator. So again, I know that the fraction bar means to divide, so I set it up as a division problem. 1/2 divided by 10/5. And then, again, I'm going to use keep, change, flip. So I keep my first fraction, change division to multiplication, and I flip or take the reciprocal of my second fraction. So this becomes 5/10. And then I just multiply across. 1 times 5 I know is 5. 2 times 10 I know is 20. And then here I can recognize that I have to simplify it, so I divide both the numerator and denominator by 5. 5 divided by 5 I know is 1, and then 20 divided by 5 is 4. So this I'm just simplifying. So my answer is 1/4. So the next 4 practice problems are the you-dos. You do number 1, you do number 2, you do number 3, you do number 4. So those following 4 practice problems should be completed in your notebook, and then copied, completed on your own, then check back with the video to make sure that you did it correctly. So here is you do number 1, 2/3 over 6. So again, this should be completed on your own, so hit pause on the video. Once you're done, check back with the video and we'll go through it together in the video. So let's see how you did with you do number 1, 2/3 over 6. So this becomes 2/3 divided by 6 over 1. Remember, it's 6 is a whole number, so it's over 1. And then I do keep, change, flip, so I keep my first fraction, change division to multiplication, I take the reciprocal or flip my second fraction, and then I can multiply across. So I know that 2 times 1 is 2, then 3 times 6 is 18, and here I recognize that I can simplify or reduce this fraction, so I'll divide by 2 over 2. This becomes 1/9. So you do number 1, the answer should have been simplified 1/9. Here is you do number 2, 5 over 1/10. So this should be copied in the you do number 2 box. Pause the video, complete it on your own, then check back with the video and we'll go through it together. So let's see how you did with 5 over 1/10, or you do number 2. So I'm just going to write it as my division problem. The whole number 5 is 5 over 1 divided by 1/10. And then again, I'm going to use keep, change, flip. So I keep my first fraction, change division to multiplication, and then flip my second fraction or take its reciprocal. And then I can just multiply across because I know how to multiply fractions. 5 times 10 is 50. 1 times 1 is 1. 50 over 1, or 50 divided by 1, is 50. So the second you do number 2 should be 50. So here is you do number 3, 1/4 over 1/5. Again, fractions are both in the numerator and denominator. So pause the video, do this on your own, then check back with the video and we'll go through it together. So let's see how you did with 1/4 over 1/5. So I'm going to set it up as a dividing fractions problem. So 1/4 divided by 1/5. And then I do keep, change, flip. So I keep my first fraction, change division to multiplication, and then flip or take the reciprocal of the second fraction, so this becomes 5 over 1. Then I multiply across. 1 times 5 I know is 5, 4 times 1 I know is 4. This is an improper fraction because the numerator is greater than the denominator, so I'm just going to make it into a mixed number. 4 can go into 5 one time, and then I will have 1/4 left over. So the answer for this you do should be 1 1/4. So here is your last you do, number 4, 2/3 over 4/6. Again, complete this on your own. Pause the video, then check back in with the video and we'll do it together. So let's see how you did with 2/3 over 4/6. So fractions are both in the numerator and denominator, and then I can just set it up as a dividing fractions problem. So 2/3 divided by 4/6. I can keep, change, flip. So keep my first fraction, change division to multiplication, then take the reciprocal or flip my second fraction, and then I can multiply across. I know that 2 times 6 is 12, 3 times 4 is 12. 12 over 12, or 12 divided by 12, is equal to 1. So for this final you do, you should have gotten 1. So here is your exit ticket. This exit ticket should be completed on a separate sheet of paper and turned in once you're completed. So 3/8 over 1/2. I should see you writing this as a division problem. Simplify if necessary, and once you're finished, turn it into me for a grade.